As right here on Bottom Line KE, now it is just less than 365 days to the 2022 general elections, and political parties are now trying to work out the winning formula and of course back the right horse. One Kenya Alliance Naivasha retreat, will we finally see our white smoke? That and more of the political trending topics right here on Bottom Line KE with me, Nancy Nalima, and with me on set is Dennis Nthumbi, who is a political economy and policy activist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Priscilla Nyukabi, former Nyeri woman representative, will be joining us in a short while. So let us begin.
Sure.
Okay, One Kenya Alliance, Naivasha retreat. They've had a retreat before. They were in Mombasa. So does this mean this is the final time? Are we now going to see the white smoke? just like the Pope.
Well, first of all, this is one big political comedy that we are seeing. And one of the things I have to say is that we are quite not sure what this formation is, because these are principles that exited from the former NASA. If you remember, divorce proceedings happened and they departed from that marriage as very old octogenarian couples, and they divided the alimony, some little money that they received. And now they have formed different other outfits that also sort of look like commercial outfits thereabout. So we have, politicians who've been hurdled by the president to sit and gather together and possibly form some, quote unquote, some dangerous armor towards UDA and the deputy president and thereabout. So we are not quite sure exactly what they met to discuss in Naivasha, whether it was a discussion for, what it is that we call, perhaps some money they're about to, because the truth is that a lot of these politicians that are forming a lot of these convenient coalitions are more of commercial or merchants. We call them political merchants thereabout. But in all seriousness, Nerima, not that what I was talking about was not serious, but if we audit what it is that we call the political journey for coalitions in this country, we'll find that they have taken Kenya through a very hellish road.
But is that the only way to win an election?
What happens is that the presidential election in Kenya has a very high threshold. There's a 50+1 and there's the 25% within the 25 counties technically. So the truth is, unless you have the numbers, then winning a presidential vote then becomes very critical. And so they are gathering en masse to, of course, to attempt to beat the deputy president thereabout. But the reason why coalitions are formed is because political parties are not strong enough to stand by their own. So arguably, political parties that form coalitions are parties that are in their deathbed. And we talk about ODM, and we talk about Wiper, we talk about KANU, we talk about Fort Kenya thereabout, we talk about ANC. These are regional parties. Some of them are not able to mobilize even 20% within those regions thereabout. For example, when you see Western, we have multiple parties within Western. KANU itself cannot be able to mobilize anything in Nyanza, let alone nationally. And ODM has collapsed, therefore, to be a regional party thereabout. So they can't be able to muzzle out or to mobilize the entire country to be able to meet the presidential threshold that is required. And democratically, we've never seen them holding any, meetings with the various party organs, to try and develop what it is that we call some type of democracy within their parties. So we shouldn't be very hopeful, but we pray that at least finally they can decide who leads them towards the
But is there one party, though, that has a national appeal that can stand alone and win an election in this country?
The truth is, we saw Jubilee with a supermajority in Parliament. And unfortunately, with the kind of betrayal and deception that we've seen at the executive level, a party with supermajority that has very little sort of representation to be able to run whatever matter that they have in Parliament without seeking help, now looks completely helpless within the bicameral Parliament. You know, the handshake itself seems as though it destroyed some type of super infrastructure that Jubilee had won. So Jubilee itself had gathered a type of quote-unquote national outlook that now is in the tatters and was destroyed. But one of the things that we are seeing is the developments within UDA, that in every by-election you can see them there. They have sort of a national appeal, of course, given the fact that the deputy president seems to have a national appeal thereabout. So depending on how UDA will structure itself, they have an extremely good chance of being a national party. Mm-hmm. And of course, this is a very tough thing in this country to try and meet the national threshold as a party, because the demand itself constitutionally is certainly not a joke. And we are looking for parties that sort of can give us the type of legacy that we see in developed nations, in developed countries, whereby parties, strong parties, can exist within one decade to another. Not a party that is formed for some type of merchantship convenience and then folds within the next political calendar environment.
Okay, Nthumbi, and now joining us, Priscilla Nyokabi, former Nyeri woman representative. Karibu sana. Okay, and we'll just rope you in the conversation. We're talking One Kenya Alliance retreat in Naivasha, and it's being called a tsunami. So after that, then it's going to shake up things in the race towards the 2022 general elections. What are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. The deputy president's side is ready. We can say the leader is ready. So it is the opponents now getting ready. And they look like they want to do it together, collectively, form a larger coalition, a coalition of the willing. It's a bit like a baby. So the birth is painful, or the process is painful, but it will come. And then we have a neater election that way. One side of UDA and then the other side, the rest of the coalition, and just have two strong forces pushing to drive the campaigns, so that then the economic issues, the people's issues, the devolution issues can then be better canvassed, corruption issues. So I'm personally happy about this. I don't like the 70 parties myself. I mean, it's a very untidy democracy. And I don't like this ballot paper that is, kitabu. Ballot paper ni kitabu. You are forever looking for your candidate. And I don't like also this IBC chairman. That is so-and-so, zero, so-and-so, zero, so-and-so, zero. What's the point? I mean, let's just have two strong candidates, just like the democracies elsewhere. Even Ghana now has NDC and NPP. Tanzania has the Chama Pinduzi and then the opposition party. South Africa, ANC, and a few other parties. We are the only ones who are a mature democracy, but with a very untidy political culture. So I'm hoping that this tidies our political culture. Okay. And even UDA himself will also need a coalition partner. So tsunamis are coming.
So, and the One Kenya Alliance is constituted majorly of party members of NASA, the former NASA. And we saw Raila Odinga at Mombasa together with the president and the different party leaders. And from that, the president is supposedly supporting former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. But now Raila, now that he's not backed any coalition, and Ruto has not done that as well, One Kenya Alliance, could the person that stands with One Kenya Alliance be the winning candidate for the 2022 general elections? Yes, Nthumbi.
First of all, one of the things that we have to be very honest about is the lack of organization that we are seeing in former NASA, OKA. We don't know what they will be going forward. But the president has pronounced himself as he will support the candidate within NASA. So I think then the migration is from the divorce proceedings are from the former NASA into OKA into NASA. a new NASA. I don't know. I think technically they will throw away the sort of the that they had previously thereabout. So I think one of the things that we are seeing is that the type of indecision may cost them a lot. And the fact that they are completely unwilling, I saw in the papers there that they were called the coalition of the unwilling. You understand? I don't know how long it will take for them to agree technically who the leader will, and they have to negotiate positions. They have to negotiate positions. And those positions, where are they, within our constitution, at the end of the day. So in terms of winning the next election,
okay,
I think, to be very honest, I see OKA positioning themselves technically, willingly, maybe to be the next opposition. But of grave concern is why a transitioning government that is exiting the seat is behaving as though it is subject to electoral defeat and gathering a sort of a team to beat the deputy president. I think. But
isn't is the president at liberty to back whoever he wants to back?
The president has one vote, first of all, but instruments within the presidency must not be used because the presidency is not an electoral body. Mm-hmm. I think respectively we should see the posture that former President Kibaki had. He was hands-free on matters of elections. And I think within the country, the ballot is a secret ballot. I think from the presidency, whipping emotions and you as a symbol of national unity, then dividing the nation in the middle is not absolutely prudent. I think it's important that the president focuses on his development agenda and his legacy, and he lets the competitors shape their race and sell whatever it is that they want to sell within Majiko. Let Raila Odinga organize himself the way he wants to organize. Let Mudavadi organize himself the way he wants to organize himself. Let Kalonzo and Wetangula and the rest that we don't know, within the political profile and architecture, let them mobilize themselves the way they want to mobilize themselves. But it seems as though it's a bit undemocratic to try and establish a coalition that is outside government to seem like the government is endorsing it to sort of beat the deputy president. That alone would work against some of our values as a nation. And I think it's important that we call that out because we want a peaceful transition when it comes to 2022.
Okay, Priscilla, I will let you weigh in on the same, but I understand we do have to take a short break. But we are talking matters, collisions ahead of the 2022 general elections, the rising political temperatures. Don't go too far.
Welcome to the Natural Juicing Center. We are a unique organization that seeks to provide the community with an alternative healthcare option. We specialize in the use of a natural holistic system that focuses on building health through cleansing and nourishing of the body. We utilize a variety of natural health promoting methods in our services, which include juicing therapy, hydrotherapy, colon cleansing, massage therapy, and a comprehensive cleansing service, among others. Our juices are freshly made and tailored to each and every client's individual needs after evaluation by our team through our free consultation service. You can now book for any service or order for food supplements on our website www.naturaljuicingcenter.co.ke. You can also visit our center in Kahawa Sukari, house number 1334, Kahawa Sukari Avenue. Natural Juicing Center. Your health is your wealth.
Many of your problems, you, and I mean you, must pray for them. It is only in the place of prayer where you establish a relationship between you and God. Because there are battles you must fight. Mpendwa, kuna vita zinakugojea upigane, na usipopigana utapigwa. You either fight or you will be fought. Kama unaweza kaa kwa Mungu abadilishe what you think about money. What you think about money is not what the Bible says about money. Wewe hujui hivyo. Kilio kingine unalia hapo. Shida zingine zimekufuata tangia uzaliwe. Ungetafuta dhabihu nzuri, uombe nayo mbele ya Mungu. Hiyo shida ingeenda haraka, ingeenda asubuhi.
Neno la Hekma with Pastor Ruben Thuo. Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. only on Look Up TV.
Welcome to Look Up Guest House Retreat and Prayer Center. When you first come in, we'll be happy to receive you at our reception, then proceed to our cozy and well-equipped accommodation facilities. We aim to provide our guests with a unique, comfortable, and worthwhile experience. Here at Look Up Guest House, we provide our guests with a continuous supply of room amenities. A cool environment for all your retreat activities.
Look Up Guest House Retreat and Prayer Center. For reservation, contact us on info@lookupguesthouse.org or call us on 0746 788 707.
You guys have to tweet about this. What phone is this? Hey, looks good. How much is it? You haven't heard of the Optiven offer? No. I must excuse you, invest too. Optiven has this amazing offer. Huh? If you make a commitment of 900k in any of their value-added projects, you get rewarded with a cool smartphone, bro.
Welcome to the Natural Juicing Center. We are a unique organization that seeks to provide the community with an alternative healthcare option. We specialize in the use of a natural holistic that focuses on health through cleansing and nourishing of the body. We utilize a variety of natural health promoting methods in our services, which include juicing therapy, hydrotherapy, colon cleansing, massage therapy, and a comprehensive cleansing service, among others. Our juices are freshly made and tailored to each and every client's individual needs after evaluation by our team through our free consultation service. You can now book for any service or order for food supplements on our website www.naturaljuicingcenter.co.ke. You can also visit our center in Kahawa Sukari, house number 1334, Kahawa Sukari Avenue. Natural Juicing Center. Your health is your wealth.
Like, follow, subscribe, click the notification button. Join the Look Up TV movement now.
And welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Look Up TV. The hashtag is #KE at Look Up TV on Twitter, Look Up TV on Facebook. You can also engage with us using the SMS number 20374. With me on set to talk about the issues among coalitions ahead of the 2022 elections. What is the winning strategy for different parties? With me on set is Dennis Nthumbi, who is a political economy and policy activist. And of course, the lady, lovely lady, Priscilla Nyokavi, former Nyeri woman representative. Yes, and let's proceed. So the Deputy President has said that he is a lone ranger and that all the other parties are ganging up against him. What are your thoughts?
The truth is that what the Deputy President is alluding to is the fact that there seemed to be a sort of a ganging up against him, even by the sitting government, to ensure that, and you've had these sentiments, and let's be very honest, you've had the likes of Atwoli saying that the Deputy President won't even be on the ballot, some very scathing attacks thereabout. So I think there is an attempt to ensure that either the Deputy President does not make it to the ballot for some type of things we don't know, or number two, he suffers electoral defeat. You know, they had this mobilization of sorts, you know, from all sorts. You know, NASA is defunct, OKA is here, we don't know its definition, but so resurrect them to make sure that you establish them as an arrow against the Deputy President. And I think the prudent thing that we want to see is that we want to see the institutional electoral functions in the country taking effect. You know, we want to see the IBC doing its job, not the presidency doing the job on behalf of IBC or thereabout. Let the Deputy President sell his economic agenda to the people, and let Wanjiko decide.
Sonia Kabi, what are your thoughts? Are there parties ganging up against him, or it's politics? It's a competition. So whatever gets people ahead.
Yeah, that would be my view actually. Because even he, the Deputy President, very, very soon he will need a coalition. If you look at the history of our elections since 92, actually since multi-party democracy, to win the seat, it's not been a lone ranger. It's been a coalition. And since 92, 97, 2002, 2007, 2013, and now 2017 and 2022. He himself is part of a government that won by coalition, him and the president coming together. And just, you know, this is, the BBI is just about to come, because that was the aim of the BBI, was to make sure that nobody would run alone, that you would then need to have 5 leaders running with you. And this is the nature of diverse communities. It's not just here in Kenya. This is how diverse communities manage their politics so that they are stable. You've got a stable top, and then you can then manage the economics, you can manage the people and the resources and the questions, including poverty, that are with the people. And so coalition, and it's not coalition of unwilling, it is the coalition of the willing. And it is OKA, not OKA. It is OKA. It's got a couple of new entrants in Gideon Moi, the chairman of KANU, and other entrants who will come in. So OKA. And then we have UDA on one side. So the idea is a broader base, really, as we go into politics, and so that you compete on the broader base. And you compete on issues, and you compete on strong governance reforms. The reason why the president is interested in who succeeds him is to make sure that the country continues to make progress. We made a lot of progress during the Kibaki years. We have made progress during the Uhuru years. We have implemented the new constitution up to where we are at in terms of devolution 2 terms. So you don't want somebody who comes into office to wipe away all that progress that we have made. We must get a leader who comes into office to give us progress. And because we are competing with other African countries, progress in development, progress in economics, progress in education, progress in healthcare, and progress in unity, national unity and national stability. We are still not very safe in terms of African transitions. We've seen the 3rd president hand over to the 4th now going to hand over to the 5th. If we manage this transition well, and I am praying that the institutions will be up to it, IEBC, judiciary, the police, and the political actors and the political parties, and we manage this transition well, now we are on course to being a strong African country in politics and in economics. But what we are seeing now is political formations and political shaping as it should be. I'm hoping that Jubilee Party, for example, survives, because the life cycle of our parties is also so short.
Until the next elections, then you win or lose, then you form another.
We can't continue like that. Hizo tabia mbaya lazima ziishe. You must form a party. We can't continue like that, you know. Something is going to have to give. Internal party democracy is going to have to give. So that ODM now, luckily as we speak, one party has survived maybe the last 20 years. Jubilee, if it survives this, will be 10 years old. But we can't continue having parties that are like babies dying before the age of 5. That can't happen. Our democracy cannot be in it that way. Even if it is coalitions, they must be coalitions of strong parties, so that KANU is strong, Wiper is strong, Jubilee is strong. Then you come together to form a coalition, not because you are weak individually, but because you are strong as individual components of constituent parties of then the coalition. The office of the Registrar of Political Parties will come under very, very strong scrutiny. And part of the reason I like these debates myself is the place of women. I'm happy about the win in Zambia because the running mate was a woman. Yeah. So we are not just worried about coalitions, we're also worried about inclusive coalitions. Where is the inclusion of women, young people, and persons with disability? And we are looking at these coalitions and seeing which coalition promises women the best deal. And the best deal for women is a running mate. So can we start to see also conversations expanding beyond the tribe?
So they can feel included.
Areas of inclusion.
And before I bring in Thumbi on the same, now that you mentioned women being represented, then One Kenya Alliance has been called out as a man-only party.
Absolutely.
Bull dance.
So do you feel excluded?
Yes, they have to do something about that. They cannot continue. It's not a good picture. Like this picture they just recently took at State House. I don't know where Charity Ngilu was. She's another party leader. But that there was a reason why she wasn't in that picture. So that inclusion has to be done.
Okay.
There will be no other way. There must be the 2/3 gender rule followed at national, at county, and even at parliamentary levels. So that the OKA already has a question mark on
they need to bring women on board.
They need to bring, and actually both OKA and UDA, all parties need to bring women on board. Yeah.
And now posing the question to you, Nthumbi, about the deputy president. People are calling him, he's crying out foul and possibly using the card of a political orphan. Like, now they're all ganging up against me and I'm a lone ranger. So perhaps he will get sympathy for the same.
First of all, there's some things that I'd like to clarify. That UDA respects the place of women quite strongly. We see the SG as a strong lady within political parties. And even in their photos and, elected leaders, you'll see quite a number of strong women who have been given and they've been welcomed for political participation quite strongly. And the deputy president himself has been party to filling out the threshold within parliament to be respected as a Maraga ruling, as you remember that said. The next thing that I want to clarify is a concept about coalitions. And I said, and I spoke this before our sister joined us. The truth is, world over, research has it that coalitions are for parties that are weak. It's parties that are not strong, they don't have intra-democracy, and they don't have the numbers to make it for the presidential threshold. Remember, coalitions are convenient makeups to try and mobilize the threshold. Coalitions are not dictated by representation. Their desire is not to represent Kenyans. Their desire is to make sure that they make the 50+1 and the 25 counties threshold. Nothing else.
So then we do our politics wrong.
So it's convenience.
And we've probably done it wrong.
You know the truth is it. And when you look at the chronology of our political environment, is that coalitions have always taken us through a hellish road. What this country deserves are strong, independent political parties with what you said, intra-democracy, with proper political participation. You realize the other day the Register of Political Parties was called out because of ghost registrations. When you look at the environment of the 19 million registered voters, you'll be surprised to know that only about 4 million are involved within political parties legitimately. So it means a whole 15 million don't care anything about political parties, and political parties don't engage them thereabout. A party like Jubilee that is said to have 7 million members, where are they? At the end of the day, some people are finding themselves registered for the last 10 years. They don't even know, man, they are Kenyans. And they've been moving around and using M-Pesa and doing whatever it is, but they're illegitimately registered. So that's the other thing that we need to say. We need strong political parties. We the political environment has changed through, Kenya has had two liberations. The first one is what we call the flag liberation or the flag independence, the social freedom that we were given as a free nation. The second one was the constitutional liberation that happened. But unfortunately, and that is within the Constitution 2010, unfortunately, our parties are still archaic. You understand? They are still extremely undemocratic. They don't mirror to the desires of the new constitution. They don't mirror to public participation. They don't mirror anything within the new constitution. So political parties, as part of the DNA within democracy, actualizing the socio-economic rights, you understand?
Okay.
Actualizing chapter 6, whatever it is, the constitution as full, parties must reform to be strong parties that represent specific doctrines that people support. The third thing that I want to say...
So before you proceed, so between now and 2022, which is less than a year, now that the countdown has begun, is that possible?
As we said, I believe that democracy is sequential. It is achieved as we go, as we move by. It's like a baby who is growing up, and we have to allow them to grow beyond year number 5. We don't kill them, as my friend has said. You understand? We have to be patient. We have to be judicious. We have to be democratic. We have to entrench constitutionalism. We have a constitution, but the culture of constitutionalism is absent in this country. And we use political parties for merchantship, for money, for selling, for gaining political positions, like what OKA is doing at the end of the day. If you ask them what they achieved in NASA, they won't tell you. What do you want to achieve in OKA? We don't know, perhaps positions. There's a ruling that is coming for BBI on Friday, and possibly that's why they are being whipped by the president. Come back together, come back together. We don't know what is coming. God forbid that BBI resurrects. The third thing that I want to...
God forbid.
God forbid. The other thing that I want to say, the other no is dead. That is, in Christianity we call it necromancy. Discussing with the dead. We want the dead to remain dead.
But they don't use such terms. We are all godly.
No. I mean, I'm using it. You see, the thing is, allow me to finish. I'm a Christian, so I'm allowed democratically to use any terms because the conversation is mine. You understand? I own it. I know and everything, you understand? So the power and the right to express is enshrined in the Constitution. So she can't silence me on that. The third thing that I want to say is something very critical. There's a false doctrine that has been entrenched and nationalized and mainstreamed. Is the doctrine of succession. What succession does is that it personalizes the presidency as private property. You understand? And it treats the president as though he is the chief nominator of the person who is going to come next, while the president himself is a tool, is a contract by Wanjiku that expires after every 5 years. The right term that we must use is what it is that we call transition. You understand? Is you exit from office, another one enters constitutionally. You can decide to vote or not to vote, or exit secretly or privately, like the president, the former president Kibaki. The truth is, incumbents that are transitioning, they don't need to say anything about who is coming and whatever it is, because we have constitutional offices that are mandated to see that transition happen at the end of the day. You understand? So the thing that we must be pushing is transition, not succession. Succession is inherited offices through cronyism, through and nepotism, through bloodlines. So we must discuss and have this discussion democratically and not entrench autocracy or any other defective form of government that the Constitution does not respect.
Okay, I will let you weigh in on that, Priscilla, because he raised BBI, and
I didn't raise, I buried it.
The only part I really don't like myself, which is really a very serious conversation.
Okay.
And I've seen it in my politics because I am a politician. An opponent is not ungodly. He's an opponent. You have this idea, I have this idea. We all belong to God. It's just that we don't agree on the ideas that we have. But both of those ideas are supposed to move our country forward. I mean, I remember as a candidate, I had to really warn my supporters My opponent is not, you can never say the devil. That is an opponent, even in politics. And this is why, like,
So
for me,
that
I'm very happy.
respect still needs to be there.
All of us are godly. We are all God's children. You remember, we are coming onto this space. These ideas that he's giving and the ideas I'm giving, none are right or wrong. That is why we are giving all these ideas for the society to eventually make the best decision and move forward. And so you cannot say that any one person is godly or not godly. That's a very dangerous place.
If you need to give me a right to respond to that.
A very dangerous place to go to. So that the people now who support BBI, they just think that BBI organizes the country in a better way. For example, as far as devolution resources are concerned, that we're going to have more resources for devolution. The reason I'm personally even happy about BBI is the leader of official opposition. I come from a region that has demonized a leader for serving politics of opposition. Raila Odinga, as far as we know, I don't know what he has ever done to Central specifically, but he was in the opposition. And we in Central believed and internalized that opposition is wrong. In fact, to us, opposition and devil are the same thing. That's a bad thing for the country, honestly. I can't tell you how bad that is. There must be, this is the ruling party and this is the opposition. And it is not ungodly. It is just that these ones have these ideas and these ones have these ideas. Both ideas are relevant. It's just that a democracy is run on majority. Which idea convinces majority of the people? It's not that the other idea is wrong. Even now as we go into elections, and that's why, like, for me, I'm happy about the two sides. Which ideas are going to be most convincing to the people? And you know, eventually when you start to govern, you even have to pick up ideas that were not originally yours, but have been brought by other people because they are good for the purposes of moving the country forward. When the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was coming, there are people who never supported it at all. But when that constitution is passed by 67% of Kenyans, even if you are for no, it doesn't matter, because now, as a collective, that is what we think is the right thing. The BBI, when it comes, the same thing. And we are hoping the judges allow it. It will go to the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya will vote for it. If majority of the people say no, the idea will die at that time. Now he can bury it then. He can bury it then. Now it is going through democratic processes. Now the route we are following is the route we have chosen for ourselves as a way of resolving disputes in society. If a dispute arises, me and him, we don't need to fight here. We take ourselves through a dispute resolution mechanism. That is what is happening to BBI. Whatever answer the dispute resolution mechanism gives us, that's the answer we live by. Okay. If it goes to the Court of Appeal and does not succeed, there is still another one more level. Remember, we have up to the Supreme Court, again by Constitution of Kenya 2010. We go to Supreme Court. We who believe in it try to convince the Supreme Court, as we have tried to convince the Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court says yes or no, whichever way. So the barrier will come. In which he says, we who are for BBI are hoping that the baby will be born. We are even hoping not to bury. We are hoping the baby will be born. But it will follow the democratic processes. We follow the court process that ends at the Court of Appeal on the 20th. Depending on the resolution we get there, we could progress to the Supreme Court. Depending on the answer we get there, if we get a yes, we go to the referendum. Again, we go and convince the people of Kenya. If we convince the people of Kenya in their majority, and in the threshold set, then the BBI will come. But it has good ideas around devolution, and it has good ideas around an expanded top, for the very reason that he's speaking. I also agree with transition. And what we have also seen with a presidential system like the one that we have here, this presidential system is not very stable for diverse societies. It is not most practiced here in Africa. It was tried in Europe. It works very well in America. And the reason why it works in America is because of 200 years of history, and 200 years of democratic history, and 200 years of history of parties. We juxtaposed a system here with 5 years of political, hata hatuelewani vizuri, so that our coalitions here are not even the nature in which he's talking. The coalitions here are as a result of the way we practice our politics. So this system of a presidential system, in its pure sense, has a lot of difficulties. And somebody who has served in parliament, I can tell you that this idea of not having your ministers to question them on the people's issues is also not helping our democracy. Our type of system is a hybrid system that combines a directly elected president with a parliamentary system, and a hybrid system that is strong enough for the diversity and for the breadth of the Kenyan people as we know them. So that there's a question, and this presidential system, it was going to give, even if not now with BBI, it will have to give. The Democratic Party that Mwai Kibaki was leader of, as early as 1997, had proposed that the country should have a president, 2 deputy presidents, a prime minister, and 2 deputy prime ministers, so that you can then address the diversities of our country. So even if this conversation is not over now, it will have to be had at some point in time in future.
Okay,
and the leaders we're going to be electing are now the leaders that continuously engage with those conversations. That we are now in the year 2021. How stable a society do we need? What type of laws, what type of systems, what type of architecture do we have that then allows our peace and stability to continue going forward?
Okay.
The handshake, for example, is a gentleman's agreement. This handshake is almost the same as the one you had with the Grand Coalition government of Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga. You now have Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta in the handshake. But how many times can we keep doing these gentlemen's handshakes? Maybe one time we need to make this the system that we work under. And those conversations go on in the country. Those conversations take the political shape. Those conversations should be in political parties. Those conversations...
And the BBI is the inroad to it?
BBI, for me who supports it. For me who supports it, yeah. And I can tell you, like now, there is a bill in Parliament to make ministers, to appoint ministers from Parliament. A bill in Parliament. So these conversations are not over. They're not just in BBI. They're actually conversations that will keep coming with the leadership as we pursue stability and as we pursue ideas that move our country forward.
Okay, I'll let you weigh in shortly before.
Thank you very much. You know, first of all, I think it's important to clear my name from the accusations that I didn't call anybody a devil, but they're doctrines from the devil. The Bible in John 10:10 says that the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy. By the way, the truth is, and I'm not calling anybody a devil, Christ was referring to defective leadership. He was calling out the Sanhedrins at that particular time that were leading the people astray with doctrines that were defective. BBI, every Kenyan would understand. Them that wouldn't be interested about positions, that BBI is a defective doctrine for various reasons. The first, no, allow me, please, allow me to.
Because I'm really worried.
No, allow me to share. You know,
okay. Because I'm also a lawyer. I'm a lawyer myself.
Democracy is allowing me to express myself as she expresses herself.
But I'm really worried. I have not had. I mean, I've had a position on the BBI. I have not had anybody call it ungodly.
The truth is,
it's extremely strange.
The truth is, worry will never resolve our problems as a country.
Could you possibly...
The truth is, I'm giving my reasons. Maybe you need to defend me from her. You need to defend me. You need to defend my space. The first thing is that we're in the middle of a pandemic. There is so much economic clawback in this country. People are dying like not even sheep, like chicken. You understand? The nature of a devastation in this country is unprecedented. How insensitive can you be as the leadership of a nation to start discussing about positions and about constitutional changes? When we have a good constitution, 2010, it doesn't lack anything at the end of the day. You understand? It's absolutely insensitive, and we must call out that insensitivity and greed. Number two.
Okay, just
number
before
two.
you proceed.
Yes.
Before you proceed to this, we even had the situation of schools that were closed down for almost 9 months.
Exactly.
But we go to a place where we had to open schools. Our students, children, had to go back to school because we have to move the economy forward.
Yes.
So then talking about the BBI, then the country has to move forward.
So is BBI the one that is going to move our country ahead?
No, it is one of the...
This is what I'm saying. You've said something important. You've called the economy. Our focus right now should be on resuscitating the economy, not discussing about 6 positions up and a constitution. Please, would you protect me, because she had a time to speak. It's insensitive for her to keep on interrupting me.
I am number two. I agree to.
Number two.
At least now you've changed your language. Now you're saying insensitive.
Number
That's
two.
okay.
Please protect me.
Before you were saying ungodly.
I beg you to protect me. No. BBI, at the end of the day, is a defective doctrine. I stand to my word. That is my word, not us. You understand? And many Kenyans share this sentiment. You understand? You have said it right. The focus right now will be resuscitating the economy, ensuring that every Kenyan who is hit by the 4 strands of COVID accesses medical care. I was in hospital on oxygen. She wouldn't know, maybe she wasn't, but I was in hospital on oxygen, and it took every cent that we had, and we had to relocate twice within the COVID season. So I'm talking experientially. I have 5 children in school. So when you're talking about education and whatever it is that there is, I closed my company at the end of the day. 2 years, I haven't earned a revenue. Then you come and tell me about changing constitutions.
No, I'll answer. I'll say
Number
something.
2.
Okay.
Number 2.
My apologies.
Number 2.
Domini was.
Number 2.
And you also need to give
you
us
need
time
to apologize.
so that then we know how much
God
time
is
one
good.
person
He has held us.
because we all have to respond.
But you spoke surely.
No,
I mean,
no,
I don't see why she's so emotional.
Because I also need to respond.
At the end of
I
the
need
day,
to respond.
We are discussing facts, not emotions here. You understand? Number 2.
Let me tell you,
Number
men
2.
get away with calling me emotional. Not anymore.
Number 2.
Please,
Okay.
I also need to make a point.
Number 2. Number 2.
Give us a minute.
Number 2.
Tell us how much time each person
Number 2.
has.
Number 2.
He speaks his time.
I know she's
So we
big.
can
Why do I
move
need to be brief because she's disrupting? No. We are here to discuss essence. Number 2.
I am the moderator.
Number 2.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. So protect my time. Number 2. The truth is, Kenyans took the defective doctrine called BBI to the court, to the High Court. What was the judgment? What was the judgment? We all know. I don't even need to explain it. Anybody who wants to know how defective BBI is, please go through the judgment. Then you will see. I don't even need to tell you. You understand? Number 4. Let me tell you the most interesting thing about number 4. The truth is, any Kenyan today is depressed. They don't know where they're getting their next bread. Do you know how many suicides we're having per month? Over 400 at the end of the day. Mental issues have become the centrality of our society today. Then you want us to do a referendum, do an election, discuss positions of a few guys on top. That's not going to solve our economic problems, or at the end of the day, solve the quagmire that we are in this kind of situation. Okay. Death consistently thereabout. Last week alone, I have lost 3 friends. Then you come and tell me that we discuss BBI. What is BBI bringing on the table that we don't currently have within that? And let me tell you something. Let me be very honest and blank.
Because I have to let Honorable.
Let me be very honest. You know, trouble and chaos is a person. It's not about whatever, because devolution provides for us the power to self-govern. The people of Turkana have resources, they have a governor, they have a county assembly. If they want to legislate and have a road, if they want to legislate and have schools, if they want to legislate and have toilets, that is available to them as per the constitution at the end of the day. So what we need to do is focus, number 1, on constitutionalism. And we focus, number 2, on propping up the economy of this country. Respecting Article 43, socio-economic rights, that says every human being in this country has the right to earn a living, to own property, and defend the same. When you look at the articles of devolution at the end of the day, number 1, further decentralization of power. Number 2, power to govern. Okay, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you see the sense. You see the sense of
I think we should be talking
what
about
I'm saying.
BBI at this time.
BBI is a defective doctrine that Kenyans claim in the High
He's saying so many
Court.
things, I don't know which you want to respond to.
That's
you
the
can
problem.
proceed.
I mean, I think you should come to this show alone.
I don't mind.
You shouldn't bring him with another guest.
I don't mind. I don't mind. If I have content, you can't blame me for content.
Okay, that's what you don't.
But I pray that it is not a shouting match.
Let me take my time now. Let me take my time. Please, I'll take the rest of the time.
Take all the time.
Now, let's calm down about this.
Thank you.
A few of the things that he says are actually right. So let me start with the right things. Article 43 is a critical place to start from in terms of implementing the rights of the people. Health, education, water, and all of those rights. Those rights need resources. Part of the reason why those rights are not being implemented now is the amount of resources available to county government and the amount of resources available lower units below the county government. And that is why the proposal around 35% of resources going into counties is a critical one. We've just been looking at the simulation. Nakuru County moves up to 21 billion Kenya shillings. With 21 billion Kenya shillings, you also have the Ward Development Fund created therein. The Ward Development Fund, one of its main purposes is Article 43, so that people at the ward level can decide what health issues, what water issues, what education issues they want to cover. All of those matters are important and critical. And I have seen it myself. The 15% has done good things. Of course, corruption has not helped our country. And I wish even he was calling corruption ungodly. In fact, that is where God doesn't like. That is what God doesn't like, stealing from the people. And corruption is a big problem for our country. Corruption is a big problem for our country, so that has to be fought. But even as we fight corruption, we have to send more resources to the counties. And as we elect people, we have to elect leaders of integrity, leaders who are not captured in corruption records and corrupt deals in the past. But where I want to respond the most is around how the ideas around some of these things come.
Okay.
And the reason why they come, and I agree that COVID is a big problem, and I agree that COVID must be solved, and I also am hoping that the vaccinations, for example, come in bigger numbers than what we have, that as many as 19 million Kenyans are vaccinated, and you know the ones on the ID are 26 million Kenyans. 19 million is the ones on the registered voters. So we need to be vaccinated. We need a lot of intensity in the fight against COVID. And COVID, you know, is not anybody's creation. COVID is a pandemic that is international. So you can't even use COVID to stop national processes that were going on before the COVID. Remember, the steering committee and the handshake are actually before the COVID began. We've seen countries go into election amidst the COVID, including our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania. So we must fight COVID. We must put resources into the fight against COVID. But even as COVID continues, the new normal is to do things and to continue with life amidst COVID. Nobody knows when post-COVID is going to be. The vaccinations now come, and we are hoping that as many people take the vaccines, but it means that the country cannot stop. And so conversations like what the BBI has done, and BBI is not just about the top positions. It was also sold badly to the public and to the media. It is not just about the 6 positions. It is not just about the executive. The Constitution of Kenya 2010, after 2 elections, you now can see, it's like a new house. You can start to see where can we tighten things, where can we make things better. And people like me are big believers of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And I would be, because I'm a 2/3 champion. And the 2/3 is itself in the 2010 Constitution. 2/3 cannot be implemented without some reforms to the Constitution. We've been trying Duale bills, Duale 1, Duale 2, Duale 3, Duale 4, because it is not possible to bring the numbers to 2/3 in Parliament without opening up the space. For you to open up the space, you need to amend the Constitution. So this idea of making women 1 man and 1 woman in Senate, instead of having the women reps. I served as a women rep myself in the Nyeri County. And I found weaknesses of being a woman rep who doesn't understand what the county is doing, who doesn't know answer questions on county resources, and who is even in a house that votes less money for the counties when I am represented to vote for counties. But then when you are 47 out of 290, you can never change the vote in that house. The best is for people of county interests to go to a house of counties. The people of constituencies to go to the house of constituencies and national interest. And that is why having 1 man and 1 woman elected senators, because in national unity, Senate is our house of national unity. All the counties are equal. And now you will have all the genders equal. In the National Assembly, if you don't have the women elected, then you have the 2/3 gender rule. And those conversations are important. It means that there is work that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 began that it has not finished. The resources for Article 43 was put in the Constitution, no resources, its provision. And you can't say that the people having these ideas are wrong. Ideas in a democracy compete with each other. I can't say his ideas are wrong. I can't. What we can do is take your ideas to the people, I take my ideas to the people. Let the people tell us which of these ideas do they like, which of these ideas do they buy. Even the BBI itself is the same thing. The court process is a process of sieving. Court number 1 has said this process is wrong. But that is not the last court. We have to go to court number 2, and we have to go to court number 3 and get an answer from all the courts. Because this is our Kenyan way of handling the democracy. And neither one is right or wrong. All of us are trying to move the country forward. When they say concentrate on the economy, that is a good message. We have, for example, thought that there should be some economic stimulus for the COVID recovery for businesses. And I also have friends, I also have seen what COVID has done to families. I have seen what COVID has done to friends, businesses, somebody who has had to lay down 80 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees. There should be an economic stimulus package that allows people to go back to business. That even we who are supporting BBI support economic stimulus for the purposes of COVID. None of these ideas is right or wrong. All of these ideas are to move the society forward. And for me, as a godly person, as a CWA member, none of these ideas are ungodly. These are godly ideas. It is God who gives all of us wisdom. It is God who gave us the breath. It is God who gave us even the chance to be here. God who gave us the studio. Surely, how can it be ungodly for us to come and argue here?
Okay, and I'd like our viewers to tell us what they think about that using the SMS number 20374 at Lookup TV on Twitter, Lookup TV on Facebook, and the hashtag is BottomLineKE. We are taking a short break. Don't go too far.
Welcome to Lookup Guest House, Retreat and Prayer Center. When you first come in, we'll be happy to receive you at our reception, then proceed to our cozy and well-equipped accommodation facilities. We aim to provide our guests with a unique, comfortable and worthwhile experience. Here at Lookup Guest House, we provide our guests with a continuous supply of room amenities. A cool environment for all your retreat activities.
Lookup Guest House, Retreat and Prayer Center. For reservation, contact us on info@lookupguesthouse.org or call us on 0746 788 707.
Many of your problems, you, and I mean you, must pray for them. It is only in the place of prayer where you establish a relationship between you and God. Because there are battles you must fight. Mpendwa, kuna vita zinakugojea upigane, na usipopigana utapigwa. You either fight or you will be fought. Kama unaweza kaa kwa Mungu abadilishe what you think about money. What you think about money is not what the Bible says about money. Wewe hujui hivyo. Kilio kingine unalia hapo. Shida zingine zimekufuata tangia uzaliwe. Ungetafuta dhabihu nzuri, uombe nayo mbele ya Mungu. Hiyo shida ingeenda haraka, ingeenda asubuhi.
Neno la Hekma with Pastor Ruben Thuo. Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. only on Lookup TV.
You guys have to tweet about this.
What phone is this? Hey, looks good. How much is it?
You haven't heard of the Optiven offer?
No.
I must excuse you, invest too. Optiven has this amazing offer. If you make a commitment of 900k in any of their value-added projects, you get rewarded with a cool smartphone, bro.
Like, follow, subscribe, click the notification button. Join the Lookup TV movement now.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Lookup TV. The hashtag is BottomLineKE. Nancy Nalima here. And with me on set, Priscilla Nyokabi, Honorable former Nyeri Woman Representative, and Dennis Nthumbi, political economy and policy activist. And it got a little bit heated before the break. I hope now we have taken some water. We're calm.
It's a good thing. It's a democracy. So
feel free to share your views in an orderly manner. Okay, and now let's talk about the different economic models. we've seen the bottom up. Then we have seen Mudavadi last week. Actually, early in the week, he was coming up with his new economic model that is big on taxes and paying off the huge debts that we have. So is this the new way of convincing the people? Do these economic models work?
You know, this is a fundamental conversation because our country has had two revolutions of freedoms, if you like. The first one was what is that we call the social revolution of freedom, is a freedom that we got granted through the flag, technically. But we didn't enjoy certain other freedoms until when we realized our Constitution 2010. Our independence constitution was mutilated 35 times to take away some critical rights that we should have enjoyed then. And unfortunately, then it entrenched a sort of autocratic type of government that we fought for a very long time, as you're well aware. So we gained the freedom, but some freedoms were taken away internally through some type of neocolonialism. Going forward, 2010, we realized then the constitutional freedom or revolution that then we desired back when we realized our independence. Okay. The third and last revolution is the economic revolution. And thank God for the Deputy President that he has birthed this idea, nationalized it, and made it the main key agenda for the elections going forward. And sometimes you may think that these things are born by men, but the truth is it's the will of God for this country to prosper and for us to realize posterity as a nation. So the conversation right now, you know, whether you like it or not, you have to think about the economy. You have to discuss the economy. And more so, it's timely because we come from the background of a very painful and vicious pandemic that has stripped any prosperity within families and even the nation thereabout. Many sectors are on their knees. So I think it's absolutely important that we entrench Article 43, and when you read that Article 43, you realize that the Wanjiku wanted to gain socio-economic independence. Now, that socio-economic independence hasn't come from 2010. Why? Because the law says one thing, but then the economic model does not suit what it is that we call self-rule or self-governance, okay, or what it is that we call balancing the equation within the nation, that the person in Turkana does not feel disenfranchised. They feel as the same, as entitled towards this nation as a person in Nairobi. So the current model that we have is what we call the trickle down. Now, when you look at the trickle down, for example, let me give a typical example. You go and you borrow certain specific monies from China, and the monies come, and what do? We have huge capital projects. So they trickle from the top, and what that does, it enhances government bureaucracy, promotes corruption, okay, and at the end of the day, what trickles down to the Mwananchi is very little. Even when you look at the threshold that goes to devolution, is very little, at the end of the day. So for us to realize Article 43, for us to realize the instruments that are given for self-governance on public participation and on devolution, it means that you have to work out and bring another model that is bottom up. What does it mean? That instead of pouring money from the top and ensuring that it is the top that defines and designs economic activities and prosperity of the person, you need to ensure that Wanjiku decides her own fate, at the end of the day. But take the money to the bottom.
Is it the Mwananchi wa kawaida has been promised of businesses being empowered? Is it the first time?
No, they can be promised, but if the law and policy and the models don't agree, there's nothing that we can do. You understand, at the end of the day. The truth is, today, we have 17 million who are not participants within the economic threshold in the country. They are completely alienated from economic participation. They have no job, they have no employment, at the end of the day. The policies in this country haven't factored them. The models have not factored them, at the end of the day. When you look at government policies, the way government spends its money and XYZ, you're not going to see, the micro business person being supported. You're not going to see funds that are taken to empower the SMEs, whatever it is that there is, to make sure that there's capital flow at the bottom, to make sure that we expand economic participation within the 17 million people that are disenfranchised, and that's not it. There is a greatest problem in this country, even for business owners. It is access to capital. That is a problem. And even the way we plan for government financing, if you look at the financing and the development pillar, if you look at Article 6 of the Constitution, which sits within morality and integrity, if you look at the many policies in government that are in the Constitution, the economic models that we're using in the country have not mirrored to make sure that money, government expenditure. For example, if you go to the US and you want to borrow 4 billion shillings, instead of borrowing that, why to do some huge capital expenditure? Why don't you go to the US and you say, look, you're giving us 4 billion in terms of loans or grants or whatever it is that there is, and we have to pay at some crazy loans. Why don't we start to do trade? Instead of us borrowing for capital expenditure, why don't you buy our honey, buy our furniture, buy our flowers, buy our tea, buy our whatever it is? That 4 billion then directly goes to the small farmer, goes to the small SME person, goes to the honey farmer, goes to whatever it is, and it spurs economic growth. So this is a conversation that we must prudently have. The what we know, the how is what we have to consistently work on to make sure that policies, government models, and whatever it is, the implementation in this country has been the problem. And I believe that is what the technocrats, the politicians, the politicos, whatever it is, we have to gather together, sit on the table, invite the mamamboga, the boda guy, or whatever it is, on this discussion table, and then come up with the how prudently, so that we can make sure, even for the first year, for the first 5 years, if we manage to get to 30, it will be well.
Okay, so many models around right now. I don't know which one you're backing.
Well, I'm from Nyeri, so mine would be the Kibaki model. Yeah, whichever, I don't know, he never called it bottoms up himself, but he did a pretty good job of getting our economy back. And we had the lowest interest rates for the banks at the time, which means access to credit. For the private sector grew in leaps and bounds. We had production, and we had money now in terms of milk being paid for all of the more years. Coffee and tea had very low earnings. It is in the Kibaki years that coffee, tea, especially tea and milk, dairy milk, KCC came back. We had the constitutional governance, and there's a very clear link between the law and the economics. So I'm happy about the conversation on the economy. That really is a long pending conversation. And that it has come in the year 2021 for the election in 2022, that's a good thing. So can we now debate the models? But then the models cannot be slogans. It cannot be sloganeering. It must be deeper than that. It must be more weighty than that. I have served in budget committee. We've got a very straight jacket budget. Give 300 billion to teachers, give 200 billion to security, and that we neighbor Sudan and we neighbor Somalia and we neighbor Ethiopia, so we've got a bit of a problem with the borders. And so we spend a lot of money on security, we spend a lot of money on infrastructure that we all needed. I'm pretty excited about the road network that we now have in the country and the expansion of roads, because then the productive part of the population is mobile, so it needs to be moving, and it has been very painful to be stuck in jam, to not be able to
4 hours a day.
I know, 4 hours a day, and you're a young lawyer trying to run around, or you're a young hustler trying to hustle around, but you're stuck in traffic. So I think that the resources that go into that, so that when now we come into the cake, we must bake a bigger cake, so production. So this economic conversation must go with production. It must go with markets for our product. It must go with finishing cartels, because part of the reason why our farmers don't get the money is actually the cartels that we have within the value chain. So do away with the cartels. And we have to have concrete proposals around how these economic issues are going to be addressed. How the fight against corruption is going to be part of this conversation on economic reforms. And so the excitement is that presidential candidates now have a good chance to go back with their technocrats, to go back with their think tanks, and craft the best economic model. We are back to the American system, that it is the economy stupid. So can we now see proper economic models? And not slogans and not lies to our people, but proper economic models. I am personally very excited about that. And I'm hoping that the presidential candidate that we eventually support will then have the best economic solutions to our problems. And we'll have a realistic opinion about our budget. Because if you say that you're going to give money to this kind of thing, it means that you're going to get money from somewhere else. So where are you going to get the money? Is it from education? Is it from health? Is it from water? Is it from, roads? Where are you going to get the money that we're going to use on these things? Widening the tax base, that conversation is also very important. Mm-hmm. It's true we have 17 million people below the poverty line.
Mudavadi's model is big on
we have a very, very small number of people who are paying taxes that then sustain the 45 million Kenyans. So that tax base has got to expand. But the reason why people don't like paying taxes is when the services are not there. Even the few people who are paying tax, you have to pay your own security, you have to pay for your own garbage, you have to pay for your own education, you have to pay for your own hospital. They say, why am I paying the taxes then? So it must be, we are paying taxes, but then we have services. But then that tax base must be broadened. A lot more Kenyans must pay tax, and a lot more Kenyans must actively participate in the economy. And this conversation about the people who are not in the economy, they tend to be women, they tend to be young people, they tend to be people with disability. So this inclusive economic growth is also very important for my kind of work, because it means that you have more women, you have more young people included in the economic conversation. It's a good conversation. In fact, there, we even have nothing to regret. What now will be the issue is the ideas fighting each other. But we need all the economic ideas that we can get for our country to move forward economically. Our economy is now among the fastest growing, but then the problem is it is fastest growing, but the base doesn't feel the growth of that economy. So you still must have measures that allow the economy to be fastest growing, ICT and all, but then the base is feeling that growth. And what it means is that we eventually will have money in our pockets. So we must do something to let the economy give us the money. We've been believing that the politics will one day sort out the politics. The politics will one day sort out the economy. I think it is time maybe to do the other way. Let's sort out the economy. Maybe the economy will sort out the politics and see whether that's
maybe
going
so.
to work.
And looking at Mudavadi's strategy and trying to help the country with their accruing debt that has been over the years. So do you think that's a possibility to finally address the debt issue?
The debt issue comes because we haven't sorted out our financing and development pillar. And I agree with what my sister has said here, that several things. Number one is that the base does not feel the economic growth. Number two is the widening of the tax base. And widening of the tax base, how do you do that? The 17 million that are excluded from economic participation, then you have to make sure, because you have four categories of production. You have land, you have labor, you have capital, and you have entrepreneurship. You have to make sure that you pump money to the base at the end of the day. And that cuts government bureaucracy quite strongly. You borrow to finance huge capital expenditures from the top. And even those projects, some of them now, you look at the World Bank has called the current government on almost about 60% of the mega projects haven't been finished, and they have to keep on borrowing, and they have to keep on borrowing. So once you sort the base and involve the base within economic participation, you'll have a wider tax net. You will sort out your financing and development pillar, even in terms of locally. You know, at the end of the day, you kill corruption. You have to entrench Article 6 of the Constitution. At the end of the day, then you look at your borrowing partners as trade partners. If you're going to borrow money out there, make sure that that money hits the SMEs at the end of the day. You'd be surprised that the SMEs are the ones that contribute to 60% of our GDP. Yet today, because of COVID, how many of them have wounded up? The newspaper is full of auctioneers here and there. So we have to ensure that the 4 categories of production, that we pump money directly. Number 2, economic participation of those who have no participation are participated. And one critical thing that happens there is a criminalization of business. Unfortunately, the other day, 2 young men in Kianjokoma were killed out of the interest perhaps to start a pork business. At the end of the day, we have, the investigations are currently going on, but you see the kind of brutality that is there for potential business people. The truth is, when you look at the model that China deployed, was a bottom-up economic model. China, in the days of Mao, was an agrarian economy, driven by agrarian economy. But the model was fascist. It means that you farm, you give the government, it sells. But then they went through a great depression. The culture of eating rats and funny animals came from that depression. So then the Chinese, in the new government, they revolutionized financing and the SMEs and all that. So the guy who is selling you a weave in China comes from a desperately poor background, but China has to date, through their models, managed to bring up a new socio-economic class, 5 million millionaires in US dollars over a very short period of time. And I believe, and I love the fact that we're all talking economy, because at the end of the day, we may talk economy, but we get the model wrong. Because it's not like we haven't been talking economy in this country. We have had finance ministers. We have had the economic conversation for a very long time. It is the model that we need to get right. And if you look at our GDP drivers, it's the base. So if we don't fire the base, if we don't develop the base, if we don't finance the base at the end of the day, our country is going to be stifled. KRA receives almost about 4 million returns. 3 million of those ones are nil, at the end of the day. And you have maybe 2.5 or 2.2 that are paying taxes at the end of the day. When you look at the regime of corporate taxes, it's not as good as we may think. So we have to review the tax regime, and the reviewing of that may not be the overburdening of the middle class or the 2 million, will be ensure that everyone in this country who desires to earn a living, to own property, to start a business, to get a job, one way or the other, policy, the environment is suitable for them. By the way, when you look at the model that works in Gikomba, the women work 2 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. in the morning. They go and borrow money from Equity Bank. They don't have money. They go and buy their bills and sell. At midday, they return the money at the end of the day. Access to capital also is another question that we must. But I love the fact that everybody is on board on this conversation. And I believe, because we love this nation, anybody who is going to be opposing this conversation about the economy, especially the bottom-up economic model, is definitely benefiting from the government bureaucratic systems.
Okay, and let's move on. So just to take you a little back, when we are looking at, for the implementers of these economic models, then we need to have a government that actually implements it. And now that we are in the race towards the 2022 general elections, then we'll have a president and the deputy president. So let's talk about running mates ahead of the 2022 general elections. For the One Kenya Alliance, depending on the winning formula, one will be president, one will be deputy president. But for the deputy president currently, William Ruto, then what's his possibly plan?
I mean, having been a practitioner of Kenyan politics, it's too early. This is too early.
Too early to tell?
It's too early to tell. So this is the kind of conversation you want to have maybe around about December. Because what happens is a year to the elections, you're setting up your secretariats and you're setting up your teams. And the choice of running mate is so critical. It's not even just here in Kenya, even in the US. They don't announce running mates because there is potential fallout for whoever you don't pick. Because even, say, just both teams, if you look at the deputy presidents, there are people around him, all of who are angling to be picked, and from different communities. So if you go with the Kenyan old style of politics, there would be the Mount Kenya community, the Western community, the Rift Valley and all of that. So depending on who you pick, you then risk losing other blocks. And so that's why it will be a bit early now to point running mate or no running mate. I have been favoring the principles. Why don't we have the principle of also looking at women as potential running mates? Okay. Otherwise, for both sides, I think it's a bit too early, and just having seen how politics flies and flows, it wouldn't even be ideal at this point in time, because then you pass on a chance to really be hit. I mean, just saw what happened with the presidential candidate Muisa Kitui. If you are named running mate today, I think that might be the end of you.
Okay, and Mount Kenya is of interest right now, because this is the very first time that Mount Kenya is not going to be voting as a bloc, or so we don't know. But as of this time, it is pretty much divided. So could a running mate of either of the coalitions be coming from the mountain? Yes,
I'd like to answer the conversation about the running mate first of all.
Okay.
I think one of the things that we have missed in this country is to define the space of the deputy president. And unfortunately, with the current environment and misunderstandings, even if a woman is nominated, she may end up being frustrated and not being seen as functional. And we must define that space pretty well. Now, the reason why we have a deputy president is for several things. Number one, the Constitution imagined that, God forbid, if anything happens to the president, there has to be continuity. So number one, we have the vice president for continuity's sake. At least there's no lacuna or any kind of vacancy within the president. Number two is for checks and balances. Your number two should be your most respectfully critical person. Is not agreeing to all your ills, but saying, you want us to go to the left, but Your Excellency, with all due respect, I think for the people of Kenya, right maybe the best route. Or maybe we take a sharp left and then you explain. So checks and balances are absolutely critical. For those two reasons also, and the third reason is that you understand that the Jubilee didn't come into a coalition, it came into a merger. A URP and the other party collapsed and they formed one party, and there were several other parties that did that. So it was a merger at the end of the day. So the deputy president represents the expressions of many others. So that needs to be respected, because if we entrench the current culture, then we are likely to miss critical representation. If women or youth come within that space, it's going to be extremely ugly, because then we will entrench patriarchy within our constitution, and our constitution does not respect plutocracy or glentocracy. That says that perhaps this elderly person is the only one who can call the shots and thereabout. Political expressions must be demonstrated properly. Now, we are having one general conversation that has destroyed the politics of tribe, the economy. It is central to the Luhya, it is central to the Kikuyu, it is central to the Kalenjin, it is central to the Luhya, it is central to the poor man, it is central to the rich man, it is central to the middle class. So the conversation about regionalism, of tribalism, will be completely decimated by the conversation of regional parties and regional blocs. Why is that good even for multi-party democracy and for party democracy? Is that if your idea is bought across the board, and you don't have to mobilize only the Luhyas, the person in the coast is loving your conversation. You understand? The person in Rift Valley is loving your conversation. It doesn't matter what your tribe is. So the conversation about the economy then whips everyone into a level, because even the billionaire who is manufacturing tissue paper in Babadogo has their bottom. The guy who is selling sausage somewhere in Mukuru Kwanjenga has his bottom. And even the billionaire manufacturing tissue paper is interested with the prosperity of the person at the bottom, because you have to buy their tissue, at the end of the day. So this is a general conversation that will destroy the archaic conversations about tribes, the fact that only one tribe is eating the national cake. I think, economically, if the models do not marginalize any region, they don't marginalize any tribe, everyone is benefiting, it would be the best gift that we ever got in this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before we dismantle the regions, Mount Kenya in particular, we have certain interests, including agriculture. And so for us, It isn't so much the personalities, it is so much what happens to our economic bloc.
Absolutely.
Because now CEREB, the Central Kenya, in fact, we are developing a Central Kenya one market so that the products in Nyeri can move to Murang'a, can move to Kiambu, can move to Nakuru. And there is nothing wrong about a region like CEREB strengthening itself, economies of scale, action, and in that CEREB region. It can be equivalent to like 28 other African countries. And many other countries have developed that way. The Lake region, for example, is also a very big economic bloc, the coast region. And so those regional blocks, in terms of economic issues, because they have collective economic issues, the coast has the port. The lake region would have the lake, and we in the mountain then would have the mountain as an economic issue and certain issues, especially agriculture. Coffee, tea, milk, would be very important for us. So even as we go into the coalitions, what will happen is not so much the person. It will be so much who gives us
the interest,
our interest, and more importantly, fair representation, because Central Kenya feels unfairly represented. That the numbers of population and the numbers of members of parliament are not equivalent, and that is why in parliament we are not able to move issues that are concerns. The Chinese market, for example, it is a one-way. It is just us guys consuming Chinese products. China is not buying anything from us, and that is a very unfair conversation.
But there's no value chain.
No value chain. And then also, like coffee and tea, which have been our traditional products, should also be moving to, the SGR is, for example, just moving products. If we audited here what we are wearing, it would be China. What is China consuming from us? So the presidential candidate who then assures our region that our products are going to be able to go to markets like those, that is the conversation that we're going to have. So these regional blocks will still be important for the purposes of economic discussions and even in Central.
Yeah.
That is the conversation we're going to have. And then that conversation is what then says, where then do we get the best package to deliver on the things that we think are important. Okay. That is why for us, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture becomes a very important ministry for our region, because we are an agriculture society. And that is not to say that we don't care about the fishermen or we don't care about the pastoralists, no, but we all have something that we are contributing to the basket of Kenya.
I think what she said is important, just for a minute.
Very briefly,
because I think the region negotiating as a bloc is an important factor, and defining their own prosperity. As long as this sort of, negotiating organizations don't then stifle the farmer at the bottom. But why am I saying that? It's important that every region, we've seen the deputy president leading a lot of these Nyanza region, economic, whatever it is. And I was wondering exactly, how's that, until I went through sort of the plan that they did with the Nyanza team, and I realized, you know what, for a very long time, these people know exactly what it is that they want, but the government has never really given them that. And then I started to wonder, why is it that the county governments within the Nyanza bloc haven't delivered these simple thinkings and simple things yet? But when you look at the economic model that is there in the country, it will not allow for that thriving. So I think it's important that the central province starts to negotiate, how do we auction our coffee? Instead of taking it to Mombasa, can we then deal with our own coffee? I am a coffee farmer myself, you understand? But when you look at our days when my mother was being raised by coffee, it may not be possible now, because our future and our prosperity is decided by some middlemen somewhere that God knows where, at the end of the day. So I think, and also those it's very important for us to have sort of economic corridors. That if there's food in Nyeri, then a certain region in Turkana can be able to buy and benefit. And even if we can enhance barter trade, at the end of the day. So I think this conversation is extremely critical. And I think every region needs to look at their farmer and needs to look at the money that the government has. Why would you have emergency funds meant for agriculture, and the farmer who is doing subsistence farming, you give them that money when they're hungry, yet at the end of the day, you can enhance the economic gain? Because in Nairobi, we don't farm, but we buy food. So what that farmer needs at the end of the day is money that they can be able to trade with. But how is that possible? How then can we see that the plan that Central has, that touches touches the farmer at the base. And also there's a growing agrarian movement of fishing in Sagana that must be properly developed at the end of the day. So there's a lot of potential economically within the regions, and I think this is the time that we make sure that every presidential candidate burns their midnight oil. If they have to faint, let them faint, but we need this conversation about the economy cracked and nationalized, and policy and law to respect that at the end.
Because you realize these are the jobs we're talking about. Because jobs won't come unless this conversation is on the table. As we improve your agrarian, because like we have a lot of unemployment in our region. So only if our products are making economic value and value chains would then we create jobs. So that conversation is critical. And it goes, all of those conversations are valid. As you discuss the growth of the economy, you're discussing job creation, because we must get job creation. It's been a bit sad for people to finish school and not have jobs. I mean, now the cry for all parents is jobs, jobs, jobs. If you're in public office, if you go to church now, you come out with 5, 10 CVs. You also don't know where to take them.
Just want jobs.
It's a bit of a sad life, yeah.
So we really have to wind up, but I would love to give you 30 seconds each just to give your thoughts on ahead of the 2022 general elections, the timeline that we have. What's your bottom line?
My bottom line is that let's carefully look at the bottom-up economic model. I particularly love it because it addresses my personal issues, and it addresses the issues of my families. It touches the base. I was giving work to almost about 5,000 people a month. I can't anymore. I sympathize to where they are, probably worse off. God forbid and help us. But at the end of the day, if the sovereign wealth that we have in this country, the capital that we have in this country can be redirected to help the SME, can be redirected to create jobs, can be redirected to bring in an agrarian economic revolution in Central and whatever it is, the blue economy in the coast, whatever it is that there is. Let us at the end of the day debate the economy that touches Mwananchi and that defines and helps Mwananchi to define their own prosperity.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable, your bottom line?
My bottom line is peace and stability,
Okay.
and a peaceful transition, that the 2022 elections will come and go and leave a strong country, leave a stable country, and leave a country that is peaceful. And that's really my bottom line. And inclusion, that we have peace, stability, and inclusion, that no Kenyan is left behind, no Kenyan is left out of the equation.
Okay.
The little prosperity we have, we share it equally. From the top to the bottom, we share the prosperity that we have as a country equally. If we do those things, I think that God will bless us with the rest.
Okay. Honorable Nyokabi, former Nyeri Women Representative, and Dennis Thumbi, political economy and policy activist. That is it from us here on Bottom Line KE. We have been talking about state of the politics right now in the country, formation of alliances, possible ones, running away from others, and what is ahead of us come the 2022 general elections. I have been your host, Nancy Nalima. Thank you so much for watching. Do have a lovely evening.
Fantastic. Thank you for
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893 542 or send us an email to views@look-up.tv. We can't wait to hear from you.